This stuff obviously works real well when you're playing with just a few musicians, but you'll find it's a lot bigger challenge when you're playing with a larger band. Now, it's really important to listen to everything else that's going on and work closely with the other musicians. The object is to lay down some tasty parts that work with the groove, but that don't clutter up the overall sound or get in the way. So keep your ears open, that's the key. In this last section, we're going to take this whole concept a step further and play some bass lines and melody lines simultaneously. Now, the best way to get started in this is by writing out the left and right hand parts either with notes or tablature. For instance, if you have a blues melody line like this, I would write that out on a double staff like this and put the melody line on top. That's the part that I'll learn to tap with my right hand. Then the left-hand part is basically a rhythm pattern, which I would write out below the melody line. This way I can see everything laid out in relation to which notes are played together. To get everything timed out correctly, you need to visually see where each note falls in relation to the other. So let's play the 12-bar form again with the bass line and the melody lines played together. 1, 2, 3, 4. The best way to get a grasp on this is by working it out note for note. Don't worry right now about being too musical. Just study the sheet music and concentrate on which notes fall where in relation to the others. Now, a good place to start this is with all the left and right hand notes that occur simultaneously. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can start adding in all the other notes that fall in between. Getting this all down can seem like nothing more than a cheap circus act rather than something that feels musically inspired. But after you learn a tune like this and you play it more and more, pretty soon you start to feel relaxed and you actually start looking at the lines as independent parts. And pretty soon you'll be throwing in fills and variations or even improvising on the independent original parts that you set up. Let me show you an example of that. Let's take that same 12-bar blues form that we just played, and this time I'll throw in some fills and variations. And then we'll even segue into a totally different time feel in the middle. Then we'll come back to the basic form and the original melody line that we set up in the last example. Now these techniques and patterns are obviously movable to any key you want to play them in, but if you want to play in the key of E, you're kind of presented with a whole new set of problems. For instance, you could play your root here on the 12th fret, or you could play it on the 7th fret. But the problem with that is you really don't get a good beefy bottom end round tone. Now you could also use your open E here as the root and kind of strum down like this. But the problem with that, it gets real sloppy when you start to dig in. It gets real hard to keep from hitting the other notes. So what you can do is come from above the top of the neck like this. So now I'm going to play this 12/8 blues form again in the key of E, and I'm going to come from on the top of the neck like this, and it should sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Let's try another example in the key of E just so we can use this technique some more. This will be a straight rock feel, and it'll be a little bit tougher because there'll be more movement in the bass part. All I'm doing there is doing some hammer-ons and pull-offs on my F sharp, G, and A, and of course you've got your open E string too. And I'm also using my thumb on my left hand as kind of an anchor on the back of the neck. It's not moving at all, and I'm kind of using that as a pivot. So let's try this with the click. 1, 2, 3. In the right hand, I'm going to play the melody, and it should sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's put the two parts together. So this brings us to the end of the tape. Now we've covered a lot of information here that should give you some good tools to work with. Remember, these are just a few of the techniques that can be utilized. The sky's the limit. So take what I've given you and expand on it and try to come up with some of your own creative techniques, something that has your stamp on it. Now there's one other point I'd like to make in closing. Although a lot of the things we've covered in this tape are chop-oriented or technique-oriented, keep this in mind. It doesn't matter how good your chops are or how many innovative ideas you have. If you can't groove with the rhythm section or your time is bad, you're really going to be lost. So learn how to lay down a foundation first and then work on becoming an innovator. And learn how to play as many different styles as you can and see what you can do to give some old styles a new flavor. Go out there and be a part of what's going on, and good luck.